The road less traveled. We have all heard it, right? Everyone speaks about the road less traveled. To an extent, the world has celebrated it, romanticized it, and even written poetry on it, written literature on it. But what does a road less traveled look like? How does it actually feel like? Well, my journey began from the area where there was no roads. At one point, in a particular moment in rural India, the roads are just not paved any further. So when you walk through the dense forest of Dandakarnia, or the internal conflict, the Naxal conflict regions of West Bengal, Jharkhand, Orissa, or the Diara areas, which are basically riverbeds, flood beds, your GPS stops uploading. Your mobile signal goes to zero. And that is when a very specific kind of silence sets in, a very particular kind of silence which helps you introspect, which helps you look back into the privileges of life we have so easily taken for granted, into everything, every convenience around us that we actually do not even think of as a convenience or a blessing or a privilege. My journey began at Sukma in Dandakarnia forest. The task was simple. I had to design a low-cost, low-resource intensive method of understanding the menstrual health and hygiene of the girls who were living in ashramalayas. Ashramalayas are basically government-provided safe homes for children who are in the conflict areas so that they can have a good education and an upbringing. The setting was challenging though. It was Dandakarnia forest. In that silence of the forest, I found myself negotiating with the teachers. The boys had to sit in the class as well. They had to sit through the menstrual class, health and hygiene class. Why? They yielded, mostly because I was having a chauffeur and a guard to accompany me. I realized it was less about my voice, but the fact that I brought in some authority with me. Later in life, I also realized that the lessons I learned from there, and I was warned when I was taking up that assignment, I was warned by my friends, by my colleagues, family obviously, but also my dean. My dean actually called me to his office and scolded me for taking up a risky assignment. He's like, I am not responsible for your safety. I was like, yes, sir, I'm aware of that. But currently, I'm working as a senior consultant with Enera Consulting. And we come across an international client. They want to understand about the menstrual health and hygiene practices, the indigenous practices in India. Not to dismiss them, not to just say that this is not science or this is not modern enough or this is not hygienic enough, but to actually understand how these practices have survived over decades and actually have been translate that into real science. How beautifully that learning came back into a full circle, something I had not expected. And I echo with my previous speakers. I think growth is not linear, but the best part of always keeping on that unyielding learning attitude is that growth also becomes very unpredictable. You leap. There are quantum leaps in your growth which you do not think of, you do not plan, because your plan is very limited to whatever you have learned. But your experience is going to be unique. Soon after a corporate stint in Hyderabad for 2 years, I joined as a surveillance medical officer with WHO. And with every posting I had, most of the postings I had, to be honest, I received a message that walked before the posting letter came. The first woman to hold the office. I have been called Madam Sir, and I believe that it just happened in movies or in narratives, but I experienced that because probably Madam was not enough authoritative or not enough courageous. So it took me more than 3 months, almost 3 to 4 months, of constantly showing up and delivering to my entire team till they started calling me Madam. No more Madam Sirs. But in that journey, I realized field courage, real courage is silent. We think of conflict areas, we think of remote areas, we think of dramatic movies, and we think of a lot of action or a lot of challenges. But no, real courage is mostly walking into unknown remote villages, on a wood shift boat, crossing 3 hours of the Ganga, knowing very well that you can drown any moment, and if you're drowned, you're drowned. But still choosing to do that, still choosing to answer that call. Courage is almost like walking to a village full of elders who do not believe much in authority or the science the authority brings in, and standing up with them and earning a place to speak, earning a place to talk about it, earning a place to be heard. Real courage doesn't look very dramatic. It is very silent. It's in the little steps that you take. And you take because you have a calling for that. Soon after, I realized ground realities, ground field experiences, no matter how much heroic they look very heroic. And you learn profoundly about the human resilience, the human emotions, humans at marginal population, the resilience that they bring into life. You learn a lot about that. But it also leaves you with a very grim reality. Grassroots heroism cannot fix broken structures. It cannot fix broken architecture. It cannot fix a health system which has broken before reaching that village. I knew I had to learn more. I knew I had to evolve. I knew that I have to understand how the entire circle works, not just be an expert in silos, but understand the entire process of creating health or delivering healthcare. And in that process, I made a leap or a jump which confused a lot of my peers. I just went from the field tracks of surveillance directly into the boardrooms and to corporate strategy and pricing. So I moved into big pharma. And then, even while I was doing my oncology profile portfolios or doing pricing strategy or different access strategies, I remember every time I sat down to negotiate, to pitch a project, to ask them to lower the prices, for me, it was not just the data sheet or the spreadsheet or the business case in front of me. For me, it was the person in Jharkhand who could not afford his medicines. For me, it was the people in Chhattisgarh who were dying because of lack of something as simple as a paracetamol. We are in 2026. Don't you feel like questioning yourself that no matter which place, which village, which remote hill station we walk into, you will find chips, namkeens, packaged food. Why is life-saving medicine such a big problem to deliver? So yes, I came up with all those questions. And I tried to answer them. I tried to find an answer for them. And I realized that courage, which was my, which was my second lesson in courage, that field courage or being in the mud obviously is courageous. But it takes a different kind of courage to walk into a boardroom, and make sure that the person at the last mile is at the center of your strategy. Make sure that your voice is heard. Make sure that this human-driven, empathetic approach is at the center. Thank you. Is at the center of your designs, of your policies. Because no matter what happens, no matter how beautiful your algorithms are, no matter how tech-enabled your designs are, no matter how foolproof your policy looks on paper, it is nothing until it is executed. Execution is the real game. And unless and until your policy, your tool, your AI device, your public health intervention can walk on its 2 feet into a rural clinic and deliver its promise, it is basically sterile. Any idea, no matter how innovative, how beautifully thought and imagined, how innovative in its approach, is basically sterile without execution. So I think if you want to take something from here, it will be the fact that execute. Execute in whatever quantums you can. Because when you take your curiosity and you mix it with some courage, you create a beautiful concoction. It's just a lifetime of experiences that money cannot buy, a lifetime of experiences that theory cannot teach you. It's basically living your life in a way that you become your own story. Soon after WHO and my corporate stint, I also realized that the way we look at health or the way healthcare is delivered in India is very multi-layered. It's basically multiple health systems in the country delivering to population worth of multiple countries, all working under the very big, beautiful brand called India. But it's not one health system if you look at it very closely. It's very layered. And right now, I feel with health systems, we do not need any more experts in their silos. We do not need any more individual experts in one particular topic. We actually need people who can walk into the wild, wild east of unsolved problems, who can be the only woman or sometimes the first woman to be in the room and not be scared of it, still hold up and deliver. I also think that there is this need where people can talk intersectorally. When you look at the way policies are being designed post-COVID, you see a lot of it in action. It was not the way before COVID, pre-COVID. So we need corporate discipline in public health massive programs, as well as we need the public health empathy in the business strategies that goes along. But that's about my professional journey. I think my professional journey also evolved along with personal crisis, which we all go through, right? And also the spiritual transformation that happened. So if there is one thing, and that's the Diara region, by the way. That's one of the boards. If we go back, and I want to take you to one life experience. One death was reported at WHO. As a call of action, I had to go for a verbal autopsy. When I went there, this 8-month sibling of the 10-year-old male child who had died had not stopped crying for 3 days. She somehow just looked at me, opened her arms up, and then she sat in my lap. I mean, for the entire duration, I was trying to fill my report while entertaining her. But in all this personal, professional life experience that I've been through, my only key learning, and yes, everything looks so bright and beautiful, so wiser in hindsight, right? So in hindsight, yes, but when I look back, my key learning was to experience. Danger hai? Okay, let me go on experience. Maza hai, fun hai? Okay, let me go and experience. This entire curiosity to do it myself and experience it myself. I think that's the only thing that I have taken from my life's experience and my journey. That, okay, we have to go out there and experience. And which brings me to my final message. We spend a whole lot of time demarcating our days into good days, bad days, our experiences into triumphs, tragedies, good news, positive news, negative news. We all are here as a cumulative function of everything that happened, no matter how you decide to label them. So for a second, just stop labeling maybe, and just live it. We have been given this beautiful, lively body, this one mortal life, to experience all the things in its entirety. The uncertainty of a remote place, the exhilarating of an innovative thought taking finally into action. So when we stop labeling our experiences and just be present fully in our body, in our consciousness, just understanding and living, our experience will pay back to us in manifold times, in quantum ways, in quantum leaps that we have not yet understood or we cannot fully predict. Thank you, everyone.